Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out to A Cancer Culture, where a new narrative is needed and why. Dr. Mona is the director and founder of Sound Effects. Okay? Sound Effects is a charitable organization and is dedicated to supporting biotech innovations through a crowdfunding platform. Okay? She launched this organization based on the challenges she faced with finding funding in order to research ovarian cancer. When she was a founder of Foligo Therapeutics, which is a biotech startup company, she realized that breaking this funding bottleneck was more critical than Foligo.
It wasn't long until we realized this wasn't going to happen because the funding streams for early stage ideas are few and far between. And it was a problem. And we realized that our great idea was about to fall into this huge funding vacuum. And in the industry, we have a name for it. We call it the Valley of Death. And maybe some of you in tech may have heard this concept, the Valley of Death. It's where the great ideas go to quietly die. And it's a problem. It's a problem for the innovators, but worse, it's a problem for society. Because so long as we are not effective in moving innovations and advancing them into real solutions, the burden of disease lingers and grows. And that is what's happening with cancer. And as many of you may or may not know, the burden of cancer is huge.
But biomarkers, by allowing us to hone in on specific types of cancer patients with specific types of tumor cells, you can match a drug with the pathway that's active in that cancer cell, and you can get an answer much, much faster.
So this is the untold story of the innovator. I think that needs to be out there. The efforts it takes to move an innovation forward, but all the personal sacrifices from moving and dealing with your family and even, I remember we talked about trying to figure out how to make payroll, right? How to keep some of these people on board so that the experiments can keep going.
And I think the important part, you have a team, and as you said, the payroll is important. Sometimes you don't pay yourself to pay the people in the team and their family, and everyone has their life and they have payments. But the most untold part of it that you never know that when the next funder will be around the corner. So you have to be okay with rejection. Sometimes they don't believe in that you will make it. Sometimes they say you don't have this and that. But eventually when you make that happen, everyone comes forward. And you have to believe. And like the Shrek, there was the cartoon story. You are a believer. Because if you are not the believer, no one else will believe what you can do.
New York City can really be there, and part of that starts with the academic medical centers. But we want to be able to create that environment where there are incubators, there are exchange of ideas, there's exchange of science not only from the academic medical centers, but companies like Gila's, where you need partnerships to be able to innovate and grow. And so as that happens, and we would hopefully get successes like a Genentech in New York City, it fosters an ecosystem where it's encouraging innovation. And I think Paul mentioned not all of the companies are going to end up succeeding and getting to market, but you learn from that, you learn from that exchange, and ultimately we would look to New York City being a hub of that innovation throughout the world and fostering those companies to be starting here, sharing with other cities and other parts of the world to bring great science to the patient. I think that's the ultimate vision through physical space as well as great science and company innovation.
I never thought it would have affected me directly. You know, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. You just live your life aimlessly, and you don't think something like a disease that terrible could affect you at your home. You know, you read about it, you hear about it, you just don't think it'd be at your doorstep. And when it actually did happen to someone that I love, my father-in-law, it just changed my world. It made me look at life differently. It made me want to know more about cancer. You know, what it is, how it can affect you. You know, I thought this was something that just anyone else in the world can be affected by, not someone in Brooklyn. This can just happen to anybody.
As a caregiver, I really just tried to attack the situation from a mental standpoint. Like I said, a game plan. I also, when the doctors came in, I wanted to just learn what they were saying, learn the technology. In football, you got to learn
Right.
the technology, you got to learn the language. And so I had to learn the language so I could make myself comfortable.
So luckily, I was steered towards yet another biotech area, a test called the mammoprint, which if you're estrogen positive, HER2 negative, it's all these things, and your nodes are negative, this test can be helpful. And it showed me that my cancer cells would not respond to chemo. So that was like a big celebration in my house.